Farm Kenya, brought to you by Fugo.
Utashiba, Fugo Calf Starter Pellets, Calf Grow Pencils, Heifer Grow, Dairy Milk Plus, and Maxi Milk Plus, products of Unga Farm Care. Utashiba, Utashiba.
Hello there, this is Farm Kenya show right here on KTN, and of course it's Tuesday, and you know on Tuesday we usually take you through the process in the farm, and today we are at Trinity Farm in Kiambu County, and we are joined by Elizabeth Njoki, who is going to be bringing us and telling us about the how-tos of taking care of your chicken. She is a layers chicken farmer. Let's get right into it and just find out what she does. All right, thank you so much for joining us today. So just give us a perspective of what really motivated you to start chicken layers chicken farm.
Okay, I started rearing layers in 20th October 2022. What actually motivated me, I visited a friend in Kenol who had started like 10 years before me and had really kept on telling me how the business is lucrative, and at the end of the day, once the bird starts laying, in the next 2 years, once you sell them for meat, you still recoup the initial capital. At first, starting it was a challenge because you really have to have that money firsthand. They take around 4.5 months for you to actually reap, for you to get your return on investment. Okay. But I started with 500 birds then. So we've grown up to now we have 1,500. 1,500 that are laying, and now we have 1,500 that are on the 14th week. So in the next 4 to 5 weeks, they should start laying, and then I'll get my money back.
Right.
Yeah.
So the 500 that you started with, when you look at the money that goes into that, because 500 birds are not really small, those are many. When initial stages, how much money did you put into this, and what went into the feeding? Let us start first of all with the money that went into that, and then we can look at the feeding.
Ideally, when I talked to that friend of mine, I asked him how he started it. He told me, initially you really have to budget, each bird budget like 1,000 bob. So for example, if you, for me, because I started with 500, I had to have the 500,000 in cash. Because that money goes into buying the actual bird, the vaccinations, the labor, the power, meaning the electricity bit, and now the chunk of the money goes into feed is quite expensive, and they actually take around 2 or 3 bags per day. So that's around, if you calculate that, a bag is coming to 3,100. So if they are taking 3 bags, that means you must have the 9,000 beforehand.
All right. So after that, when you look at the structure that you have right here, it's not a small one, it's quite a huge one. So when you look at the structure, especially when it comes to when you're starting, what goes into looking at the equipment that you're going to use, and how does that come about?
The ideal structure should have either stones, timber, or mabati to the height of your knee. So the rest of the building should be chicken wire and chicken mesh. The house should be very well ventilated. So if you're having 3 columns of stone, the others should be the chicken wire and the bars of metal.
Okay.
So once you have the building in check, now if you're starting with 100, of course the house will be a bit smaller. If you're having the bigger numbers, you have to actually have a bigger space, because one bird, the required space that a layer bird needs is 2 feet.
Okay.
So for example, if you're having a 40 by 30, you do the 40 times 30, then you divide by 2 to know the actual numbers to have. Yes.
So right now you have 1,500 birds.
Yes.
The layers,
yes.
And then there are these ones down here. So 1,500 and 1,500, right? So that is like 3,000.
Yes.
So what goes into, how do you manage them at the when you start in the morning? How does your day look?
Does my day look like? Okay, I feed my birds 3 times a day. So per bird, if they are laying, they should have at least, you should feed them 140 grams. So what you do, you take the 140 multiplied by the number of birds for you to know the number of kg. Personally, I give my birds feeds for 3 times a day. So my day starts at 6. So I give them breakfast then. Between 8 and 11, that's the best time to collect the bigger chunk of the eggs because they've eaten a 3-day meal. So we give them at 6. A lunch hour is around noon, and the 4 o'clock snack. I give them at least 1 kg each.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why 6 in the morning? Why not even 8 or 9? Isn't that too early?
There are farmers who even give their feeds at 5, as early as 5, as early as 4. So personally, I prefer 6. It's early enough for me. I'm always up by 6, so for me it works well.
Right.
But most people will give them twice a day, but I give them 3 times a day. So I do the amount of kilos they're supposed to take that day, divided by 3, then I'll do the different timings. Yes.
Okay. So when it comes to the feeds, you've said the feeding. Per kg, when you look at the amount of feeds that you pour into this place in a week or in a day, how much is it? And and what money goes into the feeding?
For 1,500 birds, if you multiply that by 140, it comes to around 3.5 bags. A bag right now for layers is going for 31.50. So 3 bags, you're calling it 9,000.
Yes.
So my birds, they lay around between 38 to around 40 trays. So once you get that to the market, dependent on how good the market is, personally I do wholesale, I don't do retail, basically because there's a lot of time consumed in the market. So I drop all my eggs to one peddler who now disseminates to supermarkets, those who gonga mayai and dizungusha kwa mtaa, the small hotels. Water coming from the tank is treated one. It's either chlorine or water guard. For it to be purified, then to come automatically at the base, where once they finish, it replenishes itself. So one, you have to really wipe them for them not to have diseases. For the food, because it's a bit dry, you wash them at least twice in a month. You just wash them, dry them well, and just put the food for them. Now, the problem here, we have too much dust. So once in a while, we'll take the brooms and just remove the cobwebs just to make sure the place is clean.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So you had mentioned about the amount of birds that you have here. At one point,
yes.
Is there a time when you say, okay, I'm getting all of them out? And how do you change? Is there a time that you change? Is there, because you say this one are 14 weeks.
They are 14
right?
weeks, yes.
14 weeks. So
yes.
After how long are they now going to stay here so that at least you have another group of birds coming?
Okay. Initially, when I started with the 500, I had them for 1 year, 11 months for the laying period.
Yes.
But if you give them the right feeds, for me, I prefer unga. They give me at least 97, 98%. They're stable for a year or so. Okay. Now, when they get to the 52 weeks plus, is that you'll have a bit of drop, but not so drastic. For me, by the time I was selling the 500, they were still laying at 81. So the reason why I sold them anyway, it's not that because they had reached maturity or they had stopped laying. It's because I intended to have these new birds by January. So I sold them in December when the market was good. The kids have closed school. They're eating chicken every day. For me to get that initial capital to put them. Because as I've said, they take 4.5 months. And that is money you're putting in. There's no money coming out. So you really have to have that capital to start. Yes.
Right. And speaking about capital, now let's go to the market and look at, because I believe someone who's watching will be like, okay, so when I have 3,000 birds, 1,500 of them are layers, how does the market look? So how did you get to the market? How was it even getting to the market? Did you just get out of the house and said, okay, I've collected these eggs, now I want to go and sell? How was that?
Growing up in Kasarani, because that's where I've been born and raised, I had this mzee who used to sell eggs and has been selling eggs for the longest I can remember, for almost 15 years. I used to buy eggs for him. So I asked him, he said, if I'm to put poultry, would you consider buying eggs from me? He's like, yeah, I should have put even as early as yesterday. So he has always been my customer for the 3 years.
Okay.
All my eggs, I drop them at that Mzee. He does the dissemination. He makes sure before I deliver the following day, he's already paid for the previous number of trays that I delivered. So normally we start with the starter, to small eggs. Even the smallest of eggs, he still takes, because he has different customers for different stages of the eggs.
Yes.
Yes. So that has always been my initial customer. Of course, you'll have friends here and there who would want to buy a tray or two. They still pop in, or rather, I may even deliver to them, but I don't do retail mostly.
Okay.
Wholesale is, because you're 24 hours, I'm here. So that time to go to the market and now pitch for new clients is a bit tricky for me.
It's a bit
yes.
tricky.
Because I can tell you, being a farmer, especially poultry, the slightest of things can happen when you're away. There was a time I was not even here, and they were still small. The second 1,500, 300 died because power had gone in the middle of the night and I was not around. So you can imagine, you may not be here, something as huge as that can happen. So yes, that's why I prefer being here most of the time. Yeah.
So you've mentioned about the 300
yes.
dying, and I was about to ask about the challenges and how you overcome them.
Yeah.
Have you, apart from the power failure,
yes.
when it comes to the diseases that usually come, how do you manage that? Because you have such a big number of birds.
Okay. There's the vaccination chart that normally you're given once you get the birds from Kenchik. By the way, my birds are from Kenchik, so I forgot to say that part.
Okay.
So normally they give you the vaccination chart that shows clearly when to give the vaccines. There are those vaccines that you actually give through water, and there are those vaccines you have to actually give the jab. There's one for the wing and there's one for the thigh. So you actually pick one by one and making sure they are all given the vaccination. So apart from the vaccination, of course, you will not miss 1 or 2 incidents. So once you realize a bird is sluggish or has an issue, you isolate it. And it's also important to also note that when a bird dies, you just don't simply bury it. You take it to the vet or to one of the shops in Kiambu that they have veterinaries. They do something called a postmortem. So they're able to tell you why that bird actually died. So if it is an issue of a disease that can actually be cured by antibiotics, now you come and give all of them, so regardless whether they are sick or not.
Okay, so you don't, of course I'm going to ask you don't slaughter it, because many people are like, okay, the bird is dead, so let us just slaughter.
No, one, you really need to take it for postmortem for you to actually know why it died.
Okay.
Then it's also not good for human consumption, unless it died of what, stampede, or too sour. That one is not sick.
Yes.
But now the sickness bit, you really have to know why it died so that you're able to treat the others. Yeah. So you can give it to a dog, but human consumption, no.
All right, thank you for clarifying that.
Yes.
So let's look at the eggs now in the market.
Yeah.
How does the market look in Kenya in terms of how they are moving, and is the market really growing?
At the moment, we are finding so many farmers now appreciating rearing layers, but there comes a time when there's a flood in the market, and once the eggs are flooded in the market, the prices kind of go down. So you can find a tray that you used to sell at 380, they can get as low as 300, 350, 330. Now, dependent on the type of feed that you're actually giving your bird. When the eggs, the prices go down, you'll find yourself really having to strain to actually buy the feeds. So like now from December all the way to, and actually people say that once the kids go to school, they'll be consuming a lot of eggs, but from December up to now, the market hasn't picked up as it should.
Okay.
So currently wholesale, farmers are really struggling. You'll find a tray at wholesale is around 340. So it depends on who your customers are. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Like now, a wholesale here in Kiambu, you'll find these are 340s. Somewhere in Kisii, a whole tray wholesale is 430. So dependent pia who are your customers and where you're based.
Okay.
Yes.
And you spoke about the type of feed. When you look at the type of feed, very many farmers, because I remember a couple of years ago, there was a problem with feed, animal feed, especially the chicken feed, where you would find farmers even incinerating their chicks before they get to a certain size. So when it comes to the type of feed, what can you tell a farmer out there, and what is the best type of feed that you use for you to be keeping such healthy chicken jumping around and just staying very comfortable in this place? So give us a perspective of the feed that you use and what is included in the feed that you use, so that at least our people can understand.
Personally, from the time I started rearing layers, I've been using Fugo. What ideally happened, we normally go for trainings. So before I started actually putting the chicks, I went to Ken Chick. We normally have trainings every Monday, free for their customers. They kind of insisted. I didn't even know whether they are sister companies or what, but they told us the best feed for them is Unga. So I decided, okay, if it's the best feed, then let me try them. So I did try Fugo for the first batch. I'm still using it to date. Why I prefer them is they normally come to visit me every now once in a while. I have Patricia and George, and there's another guy called Moraria. They normally come to the farm. And the good thing, they're also vets. So they'll come, check the birds, how healthy they are. They have that personal touch with their customers, which ideally you'll find some other companies, they will actually sell feed for you and they don't know if the bird is faring well, is it adding proper weights. So they normally pay me visits, we weigh the birds with them, they'll look at the birds whether it's performing well or not. So for me, I preferred Unga. It's quite pricey. It's just like the way you'd have fuel. There are those people who prefer loading at Total. There are those who prefer loading at Shell. Personally, I prefer Unga. Of course, you'll get friends who will tell you it's a bit expensive. Why wouldn't you opt to make your own feeds? Why wouldn't you opt to buy feeds that are made by commoners? The good thing, they wouldn't compromise on their quality. I like the quality of their feeds, and the birds are able to sustain in terms of percentage in lay for a period of 1 year plus. For now, the birds that are laying, actually, when they started laying, they were laying at 98%. They are now, they'll be 1 year in May, and I'm still at above 90. So I like Fugo. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They lay for long, and the percentage in production is quite good as well.
All right.
Yeah.
That's really very insightful. When we look at the layers that you have, the eggs, of course, are they fertilized or they're not? Because someone would ask, okay, 1,500 eggs, or 1,500 chicken, how do you manage that? And how does the egg, when you're collecting the eggs, do they need to be fertilized? Are they just eggs like that? Just give us that so that we can get a perspective.
These ones are not fertilized. Yes. So basically, it's more of their reproduction, and they normally take the 4.5 months to get them to that point of lay. So their reproductive system has grown fully. So we don't have jogos here, but you won't miss one or two. There's a white mfalme.
There's a white one?
Yes. You'll see it probably before you leave.
Okay.
There's a white mfalme, but there are also brownies that are also jogos. So when they're babies, it's hard to know, but once they become big, you'll get to know they're 2 or 3 kilos.
So like for the jogo,
yes,
among all this. So how does that go about?
The only problem is, or the only interesting bit, they will not get to the point of lay. So once they get to the growers' parts, they gain their proper weight. We watakuwa supo.
Okay.
We are easy target.
So Sarah, thank you for that. So let's look at the agriculture sector and some of the policies that guide layers chicken farmers like you or poultry farming. What are some of the things that you think the government can do in order for at least this sector to be elevated and just produce even more eggs? Because we produce our own eggs in this country, but it's just so sad that we still usually get eggs from outside the country. Yes.
the bulk of the money, as I've said, goes into feeds. So if they can actually subsidize the price of feeds or even the raw materials to actually make the feeds, would be a good thing, because now most farmers, they fear the bit of feeds because that is where the chunk of the investment goes to. So my belief is if they could actually subsidize prices for the raw materials or even the feeds, would help many farmers to be able to venture into this kind of business. And also maybe give loans. Counties have seminars where people can have other farmers and prospective farmers engage and interact. And also have those exhibitions. You know, we normally, lazima tungoje show in September, but we can have shows where now people can visit and get to learn more. It would be great. Yes.
Right. So for a farmer who's seated at home, they've started this, they've given up.
Yeah.
They've done it for maybe 4 months. They're like, this thing is really difficult. What can you tell them in terms of encouraging them to still go on, so that at least someone can reach to 1,000 chicken or even 5,000?
I always say a journey is started by one step. Once you get yourself out there, you can start even with 20 kienyeji's, grow that number, then you get to this 1,500. Now from 1,500, push yourself, do 3,000 like that. But there's never small numbers and big numbers. Start somewhere. Even us, we didn't start here. We started with 500. From the 500, we tripled. We keep on going like that. And the good thing, once you sell the birds, now you get the initial capital that you actually put in.
So that
you're able to grow the numbers as well. Yeah. Because initially, you spend for you to get to the point of lay, you spend 1,000 bob. At the end of it all, once the bird stops laying, you'll sell it for meat. So you'll recoup half of the initial investment that you actually put. And you've also been getting profits once you sell the eggs. Yeah, so just believe in yourself, push yourself, and get to learn. YouTube is your friend. Know a farmer, know a friend who's doing something different. Now, the good thing, even the manure, you can use it for your crops. You can sell it, get some money. Yes.
All right. And also, before we finish this conversation, in such a space, have you people who help you? And how many people work with you here in order to make this work?
Okay.
Yes.
When I started with the 500, I only had one help. Now, the good thing about poultry, involve whoever you're working with from day one. Learn, grow with that person. Now, when I got to add the numbers, I saw myself I'll be bending. There will come a time when I'll not even be standing, because now you realize when you're picking the eggs, you really have to bend. So there's the feeding part, there's the collection of eggs, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So once you realize you're a bit stretched, you can easily add an extra help. Right now I have two employees and myself. There's no one who's the boss and there's no one who's the staff. All of us wake up at 6. All of us have to make sure that everything is done, from cleaning to giving the food to wiping these drinkers, everything. We have to do it as a team. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, there you have it. You've learned something from Elizabeth. We're going to go for a short break, but when we come back, we're going to have an expert from Unga to give us the ways in which you as a layers chicken farmer can take care of your chicken. Going for a short break, we'll be back with more.
Tufanye kazi pamoja na tukue pamoja kuimarisha Kenya.
My name is George Kamau from Unga Farm Care East Africa Limited. I work there as a technical rep as well as an advisor on poultry matters. Today we are at Trinity Farm with our farmer Elizabeth Njoki. We have come to do a follow-up on her pullets because we have been working with her since these birds were chicks. So we have come to see the progress, to take on weights, and to see how they are faring. These birds, I'll say they are around 14 weeks old. We have worked with them since they were day old. They were from a brooder, and then they came to this rearing house. And from your observation, you can see how the house is designed. You can see it has a compact wall of at most 3 feet, that's almost a meter. And then the entire wall is made up of the wire mesh all around the house. This design is made in order to allow proper ventilation within this house, because these birds, ideally they produce droppings, and in their droppings we have the ammonia bit of it, because as you know, birds do not urinate. So the uric acid usually comes out as a dropping. So we have to have a proper ventilation for the birds. Otherwise, we'll get into problems of respiratory issues, which will be exacerbated will predispose the birds to other viral or bacterial infections. The other activity that we are going to do today is taking the sample weights of the birds to see how they have been converting whatever they have been feeding. Currently, they are at what we call a grower stage, and basically at the grower stage, the birds tend to grow. We are preparing primarily the birds to be a good layer. So we want it to have a layer structure. We want to have it a good bone growth to support the calcium that will be used during to make the shells of the eggs during the laying period. And we are going to demonstrate how we are going to do it. So ideally what we usually do, we usually take a plywood, because these birds ideally now they are big. So we are going to enclose them onto one corner so it will be easier to handle them, because when we startle them or when we surprise them, there are chances of crowding, and crowding, if not well checked, the birds are going to suffocate. So what we are doing, we are just handling them with caution, with care, so as not to stress the birds. So we have already captured some few birds, because in this house, the best spacing is will accommodate around 1,500 birds. So we are not going to capture all the 1,500. We take a sample of around 10%. And what we usually do, we take a sample from one corner, from all the 4 corners, we take a sample, and then at the center of the house. And then we get the average weight of the birds. Once we get the average weights of the bird, we are now able to compare with what we call the breed standards. It will be a guide to show us whether the birds are growing well or they are lagging behind. So we have already captured a sample of the birds, and we are going to take the weights. We are preparing this is a weighing scale, which is one of the ideal tools that a good farmer should have. So ideally, this is around 6,000 grams. That's 60 grams for the number of birds that we are put in. we are putting 5 birds. So these 65, 60, we are going to do the average and see approximately what each bird weighs. And then we are going to compare it with our standard chart of this breed. So this we are going to record. And then we are going to free the birds. They should not be in confinement for long. This is the ideal and the most fastest way, because what we want to do is to limit the amount of confinement that this bird into, so that we do not stress it. So what she's doing is zeroing in the bucket. That's an activity we should have taken before, but we'll get the weight of the bucket and then we minus from the gross weight that we got from our initial 65 grams. So, okay. Yeah, it's okay. So this bucket weighs approximately 900 grams. So we are going to minus the 900 grams from the 65-60 so that we get the actual number of the 5 birds. So these birds, ideally they are weighing around 1.1 or 1100 grams. So from that, we're going to take our standard chart. We're going to take our standards from a chart. This breed is Hireling Brown, supplied by Kenchik. So they have a breed standard for that. So ideally, this bird, I would not say they are badly off, because from the standard, we are talking about 1.19 to 1.27. So I'll say they are within the breed standard and the recommended, meaning that these birds have been fed well, they have been well taken care of in terms of the right grammage of feed or the dairy ration. They have been given clean water throughout, and also the litter has been well managed. You can see it's not caking, it's loose. The other thing is, what you can take note of is the arrangement of the feeder and the drinkers. What we usually recommend, what we have here is what we call a tube feeder. This is what we call a tube feeder, and the capacity of this feeder is around 12 kgs. So when we are working, when you are feeding the birds, what we usually say, this feeder is supposed to cater for, each feeder is supposed to cater for around 50 birds. So in this shelter or this chicken coop, we have 1,500 birds. So the requirement for this feeder, we are going to do 1,500 divided by the 50. So ideally we should be having 30 of these, so that we ensure the accessibility of feeds to every bird is catered for. What usually happens when we have lesser feeders compared to the number of birds, we have an issue. The birds usually have a pecking order, meaning that the bigger birds will usually take the lead in feeding. So at the end of the day, when we have the pecking order, it means we'll have an non-uniform flock, meaning that by the time they come to lay, we'll have some big birds and smaller birds. Then it means we're also going to have a delay in laying, and hence a delay in the peak production. The other thing is, you're supposed to keep this equipment clean. This is a feeder. which ideally should be cleaned. For Elizabeth, her routine is to clean the feeder twice weekly because it's handling the mash form of the feed. On top of the feed now, we need to have clean water, which is supplied by this is what we call a Bell automatic drinker, meaning that it has a valve and it's able to control the amount of water that's coming to this drinker for accessibility of the birds. So at any one time, the recommended ratio for this drinker to the number of birds, we usually do 1 drinker for every 80 birds. So this chicken coop, as we have said, is 1,500. So we are talking about 20 or so Bell drinkers. And then the normal standard procedure is cleaning daily on a daily basis. This Bell. Ideally, what we usually do, the routine standard is to clean this Bell drinker on a daily basis. Every morning before the water is let out, we make sure the Bell drinker is well cleaned with a disinfectant and well rinsed, ready for the water. At this stage, since they are pullets, we are preparing them for laying. We give them what we call a grower mash. A grower mash supports the development of the bone as well as the muscle in order to support, because like I said before, we are preparing this bird for laying. In a few weeks' time, Elizabeth will be collecting eggs. Probably we're talking about 4 to 5 weeks. Should have started preparing to get some eggs from this bird. So at this stage is what we have, the grower's mash. What we have here is the grower's mash, like I said. It's in mash form. And like I said, it's meant to prepare the bird for laying. These are pullets. In 4 or 5 weeks, you should be getting eggs. So this bird caters for the skeletal system, where there are deposits of calcium. And calcium, ideally, it's used to make the shell of the eggs. So we want them to have stronger bones, have proper constitution of the calcium, so that when they start making the egg, it's able to be mobilized from the skeletal system into the shells of the birds. This is a complete meal. Once the farmer buys from us, he doesn't need to supplement any. So ideally, the formulation, what we have here is, we have maize, can be either white or yellow. We have the maize jam. We have the maize and the maize jam, which provides energy in this feed. We have the bran, which provide the fiber in this feed. We also have amino acids, which provide the protein content in this feed. Other than that, we have the minerals. Primarily, we have calcium, well balanced with phosphorus to cater for the skeletal system. And we have other micro and macro minerals that are in this feed to make it a complete meal, such that you do not need to supplement with any other feed. It's a balanced feed. Yeah. So the daily rations are well specified in the standard, but at around this stage, probably we are giving around 90 grams. This feeder is designed such that we pour, because we have this feeder has 2 parts. We have the tube and we have the base. This base has a conical shape inside here. So we prefer pouring feeds here, and then they are going to slip down onto the base, such that you don't have to keep on coming feeding the birds. So that's the ideal design, to make the feeds pour on their way, or to slip into the base once you are feeding. The other recommendation while we are feeding, the routine for Liz here, she feeds the bird 3 times a day. meaning that's a frequency of 3 on a daily basis. And that's what's recommended, because what we want to do is to make sure that the birds eat to the last particle, so that it can be able to feed the vitamins and the minerals that are usually in very small particles. The other thing that it's advisable to do the 3 feeding part in a day, she's able to monitor the behavior of her birds during those 3 times. And then the other thing, she avoids feed wastage, because at times when we bulk the feed in one feeding, chances are the birds are going to spill. Chances are the feed might also go stale, because they might take longer to feed. So that's the recommended and routine procedure of feeding the birds. Okay, having worked with Elizabeth, we as UNGA usually offer the technical support, and we are here to guide her on how to do. Like when you see the birds, in order for them to access the feed easily and so comfortably, you can see the height of where the feeder is. We want the feeder to be at the height of where the neck and the back meet. That's the ideal height. This ensures that the birds are easily access the feeds without any strain. It avoids spillages, hence the wastages. The other thing you can note is the arrangement of the feeder. We have one column with feeders, the other column with the drinkers. We want the bird to be as comfortable as it should be, where it doesn't need to move for longer distance looking for water and drinker. Yeah, so it can feed, it can drink within a short distance or within the vicinity. The interesting thing is that birds are also territorial. Once the bird lacks water around its place, it's difficult for it to go to the other end to drink. So we want it to access easily. We also want to avoid fights, because, like I said, they are territorial. Once it encroaches in another territory, it might get attacked. And also we want to have that uniformity in terms of growth, so that they can all start laying probably at around the same time without a lag in some being left behind by the time they are going to peak production. When we have the ideal number or the ideal ratio of feeder to drinker, the ideal ratio of feeder to drinker, it elevates that problem of the birds having that, like I said, the pecking order or being territorial, such that even if we have bigger birds or the bully birds, when you have enough drinkers and feeders, it means all the birds are going to access the feed equally. Although we might have cases where we don't have enough feeders, where the birds are going actually to fight for the feed. But for Elizabeth, her feeder and drinker ratio to the number of birds, it's the ideal one or the recommended one. So we're not going to have much of the fighting, we're not going to have non-uniformity in her flock. Like when we have taken the weights, you can see they are almost near to the standard. We're talking about 1.1 kgs. So that will help reduce that problem of pecking and fighting. Yeah. At some point, we might get non-uniformity in the flock, meaning that we have some big chicken and we have some small chicken. And this we will note when we are taking the weights. The procedure we have said, the procedure of taking the weekly weights, we should be able to pick that one up as early as possible. And when we have such a situation, what we usually do, we make a partition in the house where we take the smaller birds, we feed them separately, we give them water separately until they're able to catch up with the rest of the flock, so that we have a uniformity in the way we bring up the flock. The other notable thing is that we usually have a complaint of farmers saying that their eggs are smaller. Probably they are not met well in the market. I would say it's a common phenomenon. But ideally, the size of the egg, one, is usually determined by how the bird is fed, the nutritional density of the feed that the bird is getting. We're also talking about the age and also the size of the birds. So when the pullets start laying, when they have gotten, the eggs might be a little bit smaller. We usually call them starter eggs, but they are usually acceptable in the market. And as they grow, the size also becomes bigger. The other thing, we are looking at the quality of an egg. We are looking at the color of the shell. In Kenya, what we have is the brown shelled eggs. So, or occasionally you might get a white shell, but what we usually want to look at is the hardness of the shell. We don't want a shell that will easily break. We don't want a misformed egg. So our layer feed will be able to cover for that. So we'll have eggs that will increase with size exponentially. We'll be able to maintain a peak production of around 97%. At the same time, when the egg is cooked, we have a very delicious, a very unique taste from the eggs that are gotten from the hens that use the unga feeds. Okay, the other thing is farmers or people might ask is how comes the hen usually lay the eggs without a cock in its presence? So ideally, the egg is supposed to be part of the reproduction physiology. So the egg must be reproduced first of all, so that we have a cock to fertilize it. So we ideally do not need a cock for the hen to produce an egg. Yes. So it's a normal physiological process where the hen makes first of all the egg, so it presents it to the cock for fertilization. So that eliminates the issue of having a cock so that your hens should lay. The taste of the egg usually depend on what the bird has been fed. So depending on what you feed your birds, it will determine the color of the yolk, and it will also determine the taste of your eggs. So for our feeds, what we have is a very rich yellow yolk and very delicious eggs, either cooked as a fried, cooked as boiled, or used in pastry and confectionery. As Unga, we endeavor to produce quality feeds that will give you value for your money. We have a network of distribution throughout the country to the last point where the farmer is. Other than distribution, we also offer technical support to our farmer. We have a team in every corner of the country that work with the farmer. If it's poultry, we work with them right from day old to when the crop is being cropped. We offer solutions, and other than solution, we also advise on the way forward. The other mystery I want to demystify is that most farmers will say unga feeds are quite expensive. No. What we are giving you is value for your money. We want you to have proper produce after feeding our feeds at very affordable rates with efficient distribution. So we are happy to work with the farmers throughout the country. As Unga, for me, probably in a month I will make almost 100 to 120 farm visits on a monthly basis, offering support to farmers, teaching farmers, giving them extension services. Yes. My advice to the farmers, before you take in any livestock venture, either be it be poultry, be it be dairy, be it be pig, be it be fish, get the right information, get the right knowledge, do a market survey and see where can I sell my product before venturing, know the cost implications, then look for the technical experts like us then from there now we can work with you and you won't regret it. It will be fun to do farming. You'll make money from farming. Thank you.
There you have it. We've come to the end of this particular episode of Farm Kenya today. And we were talking about the layers chicken farming and what is it you need to do as a farmer in order for you to get better yields. And I believe you've gotten some insights when it comes into this, even when you try to look at this venture. My name is Calvin Nyakundi. Every Tuesday, we take you through the process. Let's meet next time, same place, right here on KTN.
Tufanye kazi pamoja na tukue pamoja. Kuimarisha Kenya ni jukumu la Farm Kenya.
Farm Kenya, brought to you by Fugo.